want to tell a story. I want you to tell a story about when you were riding your bike alone and you hit your head.
Okay.
Just because it's an interesting, yeah, because like me and Danny were telling stories. Just like, and I had an outline of like certain stories I wanted to tell that we did. Some were funny, but that's a story I think it's not like a testimony type story, but it's something interesting because
It's a lesson to kids. Wear your helmet.
well, it almost is in a
Don't
way
be
because
stupid.
because a lot of people think, oh, I'm wearing a helmet. Oh, that's stupid. You know, I'm not going to fit in. People make fun of you, and they do. But especially after I started riding in the skate parks, that's when you realize, okay, I'm wearing knee pads, I'm wearing elbow pads, shin guards, helmet. You know, some people are wearing like neck braces. It's extremely dangerous. It's extreme sport.
Yeah.
And so when you're riding around the street, you know, and you're wearing your helmet, riding around the street, I would still wear my shin guards because the pedals are sharp.
Yeah.
But I would always wear a helmet. And it's like, you could just be cruising along and like, I don't know, hit a curb or a tree root and you might flip over. You don't know. You might break your arm, but your head will be good. You don't know, you know, and you're just kind of chilling. That's when you're not like your guard is down, but you know, it's because you're more relaxed. Whereas like you're in the skate park flying in the air, you're expecting, you know, it's an expectation. So you might not get hurt.
You're 15 feet above cement and you're in the air and anything could happen.
But I mean, it's almost a planned thing. I'm prepared for it. I got all my my gear on.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you're cruising down the street, it won't. So I always tell people wear your helmet, and they think it's stupid. Yeah. And I'm like, I always tell them your story. So I want you to tell that story so that maybe I could show other people that you got to wear your helmet.
I was prepared. So this is like something because we were brought up. We raced BMX, you know, we were always on our bikes doing something, freestyling, riding, whatever and stuff. So as we get older, you still stuck with the BMX. I'm not going to say I graduated up. I'm a mountain biker now. I look down on the little BMXers, but I got into mountain biking.
But we all know the BMXers are better than the mountain bikers.
They're crazier. Well, a lot of the crazy mountain bikers now are the former BMXers. Oh, yeah. You know, but anyways, I got into mountain biking. So I had a full suspension mountain bike, and I would go with my friend Dave every weekend. We would go off and do things. So we had a book of all the trails in Southern California, from the San Gabriel Mountains to the Angeles Crest Mountains and stuff. So every weekend we'd be like, find another trail. Let's go do this. So we got into it, and I would always be riding with him. There was one day I was 29, I think. I was starting to date Cindy, and Dave and I don't go off riding like we used to as much. We had kind of parted our ways. Not really parted. I still worked with him, but we didn't go riding every weekend. So I would go out riding on my own. And in Burbank, where we were, there's the Verdugo Mountains, and there's a lot of fire roads that go up there. There's a radio tower at the top, and all the fire roads from all directions meet at this tower at the top. So you can go up from Glendale and get there. From Burbank, behind the Bell Golf Course, you can go up and get there. From North Hollywood, it's like Lanark Street. You can go up there and go along the long way and stuff. So I knew all these, you know, all those trails. So one day it was like, I think it was a Saturday, I'm not sure. I knew I wasn't at work because I went riding, and I took the Brand Park one, which is a pretty steep, lot of rocks, you know, and I took that trail, and I was going up to the top and then going to come back down. And I remember riding up there and getting to the first crest at the top of the Brand Park, and then looking in the distance and seeing, okay, it goes down a little bit and then it comes up. There's another part where it goes up, and then the towers were in the distance. So I saw that, and I looked at where the sun was. It was probably around 4:30, and I thought, okay, I have time to get there before I have to go back down. I don't have to turn around and get back down now. That's my last memory of being on that hill. The very next memory that I have is sitting on the couch in my mom's house, all covered in blood, and not knowing how I got there, and not knowing anything. It's like I just appeared, like, you know, I disappeared from here and I appeared, and I'm sitting on, and that's about 9:30 at night. Somehow I made it to my mom's house from Glendale, wherever it was. So I have no idea what happened. But my helmet had a big old bash in the front right up here. It was just all caved in. So I was wearing a helmet, and I probably wouldn't be here today if I wasn't wearing a helmet, because it was, whatever it was. And then I lost a lot of skin here. There's a part here I can't grow a beard because I never got, so I got lost skin here, skin here, skin here. So whatever it was, I hit the ground and like slid something. I had amnesia, so I don't remember what happened. And then I remember asking what time it was, like over and over again. My mom she was freaking out. Oh, she also told me, I don't remember doing this, but my mom got a phone call from me telling her, I forget what it was that I said, but I couldn't even tell her where I was. And it was like from a payphone, because there was no cell phones at that time. So somehow I found my way back to my parents' house, and I didn't live with them at the time, but I guess that was closer. I just, by instinct.
I'm thinking because you grew up there, your brain just went there.
I just went there, So my mom calls Cindy. Cindy at the time was working at St. Joe's Hospital. So Cindy freaks out, and we were engaged at the time. So we were already engaged to be married. So Cindy comes to my mom's house, picks me up, takes me to the hospital. They admit me in, and I'm in the hospital bed. And to me, it was like a big joke. I was like joking about the nurse coming in, being a guy being a little on the feminine side or whatever, and things were coming out of my mouth that normally wouldn't, And Cindy was asking me, "Do you remember this?" And I'm like, "No." "Do you remember this?" I couldn't remember like anything. And she goes, "Do you remember asking me to marry you?" And I'm like, "No." And then I looked down and I saw she had a ring on her hand. I'm like, "Well, you got a ring. Heck, will you marry me?" And I was being goofy, but it was funny. But at the same time, you could see how traumatizing it was for Cindy. Here's her fiance, like she doesn't know if I'm coming back or not. So I remember her taking me home to our house, and at the time, Jamie, the guy, was living with us. Jamie, Tammy, their kids were there. They were like temporary staying there, and I'm like, "Oh, look, Jamie's here." So somehow I knew his car. It clicked, and then Cindy told me he lives here, and I'm like, "Huh? He lives with us?" So, but anyways, I guess that's the story for that. Moral of the story is, wear your helmet if you're going to go riding. And I still go riding today. I still have a mountain bike, and I have my helmet. Always won't go out of the house. I get on Cindy because I got her a bike too. She'll leave and won't put on the helmet because it's not fashionable. She'll wear a hat, and I'm like, "No, you gotta wear your helmet," because you have, especially on the street, it's more dangerous on the street than it is on the dirt. One, because the pavement is harder than the dirt. It's not as soft. And then two, cars will kill you. You get into it, you don't have to be stupid. The person that's had a few drinks that's coming up behind you, they're the stupid ones, but you're going to pay the price. So wear your helmet, at least it'll protect you a little bit. But you can't really, there's a lot of idiots out on the road.
It's not fashionable. That's what I'm talking about, though. People think it's stupid. And it's like, I always tell your story, plus all the dangerous stuff we were doing when, after you didn't do that with us because that was later when we were in the skate parks. Yeah. It's dangerous, man. And it's like, okay, I'm always wearing my helmet. I don't care, because you could be just cruising, chain breaks, you fall off, hit your head. I mean, if you break your arm, it'll heal. If you break your head, it won't. So it's like, you got to wear the helmet.
You'll get Dame Bremage.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I remember you and Danny we always used to hang out in Muir and the bowl that they had back there and jump and stuff. And you and Danny were the ones that could jump over not the little benches where you sit on, but the big benches where you eat on, from coming up out of a bowl and flying over that, and there was some other like guys that were riding with us that were like professional BMXers, the actual racers, and they were like chicken to do that. They saw you guys doing that, and they would come up behind you and go, "No way," and turn off to the side, and you guys would just over these things and land. We never had helmets doing that stuff.
No, we didn't. We should have.
We should have, yeah.
Because we were racing BMX at the time, probably already. So we had our
helmets,
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like we would go up there. We wouldn't
bike.
wear any of that stuff. But I remember because Danny would go higher than me and farther.
Yeah.
And I remember we'd keep we I think we took the bench from like, I don't know if we took it from the top. It was a picnic bench, like a lunch day, and then we started piling the sitting benches on them and
top
started
of it,
piling on
sideways
them.
like that.
Yeah, and I remember.
If you clip your tire, you're gone.
Well, and I did that one time. Danny made it, and I didn't. And we used to try and go to the same time sometimes, and we were going really high and far. And there was one time I clipped it, and I did flip over and land, just bam. But I crashed a lot back then anyway. But Danny made it, and I didn't. So he was actually
Danny was the king of the air.
Yeah, he went a lot. But also like later in life, because he had a Skyway TA.
Yeah.
It
was written on the side of his bike what it was meant for.
I rode one. Like we got one. It was just later in life. We got one off Recycler. That's where I got my Torker. I had a Torker for a while, and I got it with a Skyway TA that I said, well, we'll build it for him. This thing is light as heck. That's why his bike was so much better.
So you're saying Danny
ours.
wasn't really a good rider, that it was just the bike?
Yeah, it was just the bike. But I mean, you ride my bike now. My bike's a freestyle bike. My bike alone weighs 40 pounds. My bike does.
The bikes now are all generic. They're all black. The seats are down low. And it's for a reason. And, the kids nowadays are doing stuff that's way crazier. But I look at it, I'm like, wow, when we were doing it, there was like a lot of, I had a quad angle. So it was like bars going in all these different directions and stuff. And it was unique, It was cool. But, that bike, do you still have it?
My bike?
The Skyway?
No, I have my freestyle bike.
Okay.
Because my freestyle bike,
they're worth money now. I regret selling my quad angle.
You gotta do what you gotta do at the time. That's like people. I hate. I had to sell this car. It's like you gotta do what you gotta do at that time.
Yeah.
It's not like let me just save everything I've ever bought and hopefully I live to 40 or 50 years. It's worth money. You can't do that. You can't live your life that way though. But my freestyle bike is made for me. It's got the big fat welds. It's got the triple wall rims, the extra spokes. I have 8-piece bars. I mean, it's made for a big guy like me to be doing ramps.
Okay.
That's why it weighs so much. It's special. It's like a big beefy bike, which I used to ride trails with, trail jumping. But the trail bikes are actually different. They're like what you say. They got the low seat and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's why they're that way. They're made for doing that. It's not made for like racing and stuff. It's made for having fun. Race bikes are actually still the same way.
Pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Super lightweight wheels.
Yep, as minimal as possible. Yeah. When you start getting into trails and freestyle, it changes the whole geometry.
And I've been out of it for 30 years? No, about 25 years. So, but I still, like the mountain bike I have now, that's when COVID was going on. There was something with the supply chain. All the bike shops were out of bikes. Everybody, because people wanted to get healthier and stuff, so a lot of people went out and bought bikes, and the supplies from China weren't coming in. So you go to the bike shop, there was nothing there, and you couldn't buy stuff. So I'm looking for when we moved up here. Up here because we're in your place now. When we moved from California to Reno, Nevada, I had to lighten the load. So I had a nice mountain bike that I had used for years and years. It was one that I put together custom, full suspension, really nice. I gave that away to a friend of mine because I just couldn't pack it, everything in there we couldn't take. So we had to get rid of furniture and stuff like that. So when we sold our house, one thing that I said I'm going to do, I'm going to set a little bit of money aside and I'm going to buy myself a nice bike. It's been 10, 15 years since I've done that. And I know I'm moving up close to Tahoe. There's trails, it's like, you look at Reno, you see mountain bikers everywhere with the pickup trucks that have the blanket over the back and mountain bikes lined up in there, or you just see them everywhere. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to set aside some money and buy a mountain bike, but I couldn't find them in any mountain bike shops. And I would scan Craigslist, and there wasn't a whole lot on there. You could see stuff on there, but people wanted a lot of money for it, and you're taking your chances because you have no idea what that bike has been through, whether it's got some hairline cracks or whatever. So I found this company online called Fazari that they build the bike for you. They send you a kit and get you to measure everything. You fill out a form on your riding style, how you sit, They want your height, your weight. They measure your shoulders. They measure your arms. They measure your inseam. They measure everything about you, and they take all those specs, put it into. They have a computer, whatever, says, okay, this is how long the stem you need. This is the width of the bars you need. This is to make you ergonomically for your riding style. So I spent a few, good chunk of money on this bike, but I love it now. And you could ride over anything. It's full suspension, and I just take it up behind our house. I take it up, throw it in the back of the truck, and Cindy and I, if you watch some videos that she posts, we go riding together, because I got her a bike that has a battery operated cycle, or what do you call it, pedal assist, so she could keep up and we could be the same. So we'll go riding. A couple weeks ago we were riding along the Truckee River from the Truckee River from Tahoe and down, and it's just gorgeous trees. You're out in the trees and everything like that.
I don't like trees. Look outside.
Yeah.
I hate trees.
One thing, I come flying in here though, I look out and I don't see any mountains. I know that they're here, but where you live, it's like there's trees, it's all green, but it's all flat. It's like when we were flying into Florida, it's like you could take a ruler and put it across. You don't see anything, like this, that it's like you could sit the bike in any direction and it won't roll downhill anywhere. It's just all flat. So I'm like, I wouldn't want to do that.
I'm surprised, knowing you, growing up with you, you used to have some bike designs. Plus, you probably know how to weld. You're very good with stuff like that. You're a very good designer. I'm surprised you never designed, and actually, you've designed bikes.
Yeah,
I'm surprised
the
you've
plans
never
for it.
made yourself an actual real bike like that.
Yeah.
You're the type of person you should do that.
I had the opportunity. I didn't do it. Where I worked, there was a welder there that bought titanium tubing, and he built the jigs for it at home, and had the tubes bent and everything, and he did it, and he brought the bike in. I'm like, that is cool. It was the one thing about that though is it's really difficult for somebody doing that to make a full suspension, because you have all the pivot points, you have bearings, you got all this other stuff that it goes way beyond just being able to weld tubes together, So I never did do that, because at that time I was into, if the bike doesn't have shocks, you can't, you can't go down mountains, you can't go off cliffs and go do that stuff. So
that's kind of true though.
It had to have shocks, This guy, he built it to be like a trail bike to just ride in places like this where there is no mountains, but it was super light, and it was like, I was impressed, but I never followed through. And then I still have the plans to that one bike that I made, that I designed thinking, okay, this is a BMX bike, but at 56 years old, I'm not going to go weld a BMX bike together, a 20-inch bike that would be like this underneath me.
No, but those are the best bikes.
Like,
mine's a 20-inch bike.
Yeah.
I still ride. It's made for me. I can still ride it at this weight. I mean, it's made for me. But this is probably the best bike I've had, just because it's so tough. But the best bike I actually ever rode was my Hutch Pro Racer, because of the angles, the geometry that was on it. It was like super sharp steering and stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, people don't do that now. I don't even think race bikes are that way now. That bike was like super, super fast. And it wasn't because I was fast.
Our Hutches were good bikes.
It's because of the way it was, like the angles on the things. And I loved that bike. I didn't have it too long. I only had it like a year or two. But that was when I moved back to California. I had that bike, and I went and re-signed up at the Simi BMX track to go race over there. I'm like, I'm going to race this bike, man. This thing's awesome. It's fast. But I never really did too much. But I figured you would have at least built something by now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I put together a lot of bikes. Remember my what did it started with a V. The Gorilla.
VDC?
Yeah, the VDC Gorilla.
They had Vorstix and Changa, Vorstix and Chong, Vorstix
Gorilla.
and Shimp, and a Gorilla.
Yeah.
But the Gorilla, I thought that was the 24-inch.
So maybe it was the Chimp that anyways, it was a 20-inch bike.
You had
a Changa.
A Changa.
Yeah. So, but that was like, okay, GTs put the head tube through the seat tube through the head tube to reinforce that, and that was their thing. So Boris Dixon did the same thing there, but then they ran the tubes were so big in diameter that up in the front the head tube went down through them, and it was like had a couple plates on the front where it was they covered the tubes with, and it was just a cool looking bike. It wasn't the greatest as far as like geometry. It was very long, so I don't remember liking it too much, but I built that bike. I bought the frame because I thought that frame is so cool, and I remember putting a ton of money in it, you know, working hard, getting my paychecks, buying stuff onto this, and then stupid me by 7-Eleven by our house, flipped it upside down, went inside to go play Mario Brothers in there, only to see the tire just go whoosh, away from the window. And this was just maybe a few months after I had finished building it and hadn't had it that long. So I ran outside, but whoever got it, got it.
It wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you.
I remember that bike though, because I remember it being long, and I remember the first Diamondback I had was kind of long, and it was easy to ride wheelies on that way. Like my hutch wasn't. It was very short. My hutch was super short, super sharp. It was very hard to ride wheelies on. I remember your bike was like it was made for a bigger person or something.
Yeah.
Like a taller person.
They had different size frames, and I remember I didn't get the one that was fit for me. I got the one that was hanging at Glendale Bike Shop. They had it on the wall, and it was a large. I shouldn't have gotten that one, but stupid kids, we didn't know. We're like, oh, that's a cool frame. I'm gonna, you know. Now I think about it, it's like, yeah, you got to get something that's meant for your arms. You're not, you know, right. You get something that's too big for you or too small for you, and then you go try and race it, you're gonna, you know.
Well, my hutch was too small for me, but it was like, dude, I can't describe it unless you ride it. It's like, it's very tight. It's small, but it was so fast. But like the Diamondback was more forgiving, and motorcycles are the same way. When it's angled a little more forward, it's more forgiving this way. It's not so
I had the diamond crack.
Well, see, that's what's
funny.
funny.
I was cracked on that diamond plate.
Well, I always tell people that Diamondback that I had, that I was racing with, I bought that with my own money. Your dad always fixed it for me. The first thing I broke was the forks. He welded them. And then I broke the forks in a different place, not his welds. That broke. Then I kept breaking all the Diamondback welds, and your dad was fixing it.
Yeah.
And it was working perfect.
He did the same thing for me too. He would weld it up, but we didn't. I think about it now that he was fixing stuff. When you weld stainless steel or something like that, it gets very hardened, not on the weld, but about a ½ inch or so away from the weld. The metal gets brittle at that point. You have to reheat treat the thing. You have to throw it in an oven and anneal it, make it soft, put it in a jig to hold it all in place so it doesn't warp or twist, and then reheat treat it.
Yeah, but it wouldn't matter with the Diamondback. We're breaking the original welds anyway.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have made a difference. They were built so garbage.
Yeah, we had a lot of extra welds on there.
Yeah, they were so trash anyway. The funny thing about that, my freestyle bike is a Diamondback. And I always said after I had that, I'll never, ever own one of these pieces of garbage ever again. Yeah. But I looked at it, I'm like, okay, before I bought it, I'm like, okay, it's got the triple wall rims, it's got the big beefy welds, and I'm like, am I going to break them welds because I'm a bigger person? But the 8-piece bars, all that makes a difference. And it was made for freestyle, you know, the race bikes. That bike, oh, that wasn't that bike. My bike before that had the little sticker, do not jump this bike, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're jumping them anyway.
If you kill yourself.
That's when you break the forks. That's how Joe McConey broke his arm. But it's like, we were doing it anyway. And I don't think my Diamondback had that. I think it was a race bike. It was just so trash, just garbagey, cheap. It's terrible.
I didn't want mine, but going to Burbank Bike Shop, I wanted a bike, and the Diamondbacks were like more affordable than the other ones at the time. And I remember my dad was with me, and he was probably drunk at the time because he was always drunk. But in the middle of Burbank Bike Shop on a pedestal, they had a Diamondback Turbo, which was their top of the line race bike. And it was, I forget how much it was, like maybe $400 or something like that. It was way more.
Mine was like $400.
Yeah, it was way more than the other bikes. And I just looked at it and I'm like, and my dad's like, oh, you want that? And and I'm like, I don't know, it's expensive. And he's like, yeah, oh, it's okay. And he bought it for me. And I remember he got into trouble with my mom. You spent how much on a bike? You know? But I really shouldn't have gotten it because it was an expensive piece of junk. It was like super lightweight, meant for Harry Leary, the Harry Leary Turbo, you know, meant for racing really fast and then putting it away and taking care of it. Not meant for barreling down the side of the mountain like we were doing. So I remember breaking the cranks, breaking the frame all over the place, breaking the forks, breaking, you know, welding it up. And then by the time we were done with it, it wasn't the same bike. So it was a waste. I should have got something, you know.
Yeah, but I bought mine with my own money, and it was $300 or $400, and it was a Diamondback, and it was from McCauley's, and I paid for it with my own money. My mom wrote a check. I gave my mom the money, but it was the same thing. It was awesome. Yeah. It was awesome. It was light. It was great.
You had Z rims, right?
They weren't Z rims because the Z rims had like the plastic.
I thought you had Z rims.
They weren't Arias. They started with a U. They were garbage though. They looked cool, but they sucked. And then like you said, dude, the cranks are constantly breaking. The frame is breaking everywhere. The forks are breaking. My bars are broken. It was like everything kept breaking. I'm like, and it just gets more expensive. And it was an expensive bike. It should be a lot better than that. Yeah. Maybe that's how it was at that time. Technology
you pay
isn't
for
like
lightness,
it is today.
not toughness.
Right. Now I'm more into the toughness, but that bike weighed 17 or 18 pounds. My bike weighs 40 pounds. It's a huge difference. You can't race this bike. I mean, I guess you could. But when I got the freestyle bike, I had to relearn how to ride. Because when you have the light bike, you just throw it around in the air however you want. You get off a jump, you're like, whatever. This is like more like a motorcycle where you need to plan your momentum. Yeah. And you're going in this direction. You're not going to go in the air and just throw it around. It's too heavy. You got to be like, okay, this is what we're doing here on this trick. And you got to learn how to pump correctly. It's really different. But dude, those bikes are terrible, man. They're expensive too. It's like, oh. But I remember your dad always fixing them, welding them for us. Yeah. Which was awesome. I mean, that saved a ton of money.
Yeah, it was nice having a dad that was a welder. And a really good welder.